Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Your boy Road Dogg here with the man of the hour, the Glen Plake of Sun Peaks Mountain, Mr. Karl Bryan. He probably doesn't even know who Glen Plake is. He is the famous massive mohawk.
He's what? That was exactly what I was about to ask. Who is he? What's the deal?
He was like a famous extreme skier. He had like a massive mohawk. It was just a mohawk on the mountain. And when I think of psychopaths, especially in business coaching, I think of no one else besides you, my friend. So there you go.
Buddy. That's it. For everybody listening, I just spent 4 days on the mountain and had one heck of a time. A few little injuries with my rapidly aging body, but apart from that, I got through unscathed. Shoots. Anyways, how you doing, Road Dogg? What's happening, man?
I'm good, and you know what? I'm relieved that you're okay because I don't know if the show could recover. That's a fact. I don't know if I could recover emotionally if something happened to my. All sarcasm aside. You ready to dive in here and get? I'm
ready. Shoot. Go, bud. Let's do it, man.
All right. So the first question that I've got here is kind of an
actually. Hey, Road Dogg. Hey, sorry. Actually, you know what I want to do? Remember, last week, so last week, I can't remember the exact question, but it was something to do with $1 billion question or $1 billion company versus $1 million question. You know what? I just want to expand. Before your first question, I'm just going to expand on that. Is that cool? Or does that fit what your plan here? Okay.
I can't. Yeah. I'm going to warm up my coffee and settle in.
Okay, there you go. That's it. Go get your cappuccino and put some coffee droplets on, or some chocolate droplets on top. But anyway, so guys, last week it was $1 billion question versus $1 million question. I kind of answered that. And I was just thinking this morning that there was some, it could have been expanded upon a little bit. Here's the thing, like in a nutshell, I kind of said this, but I want to implicitly say it in that you'll always get further by being different than you will being better. And by the way, your business coaching clients, your high-end business coaching clients that you're trying to get, rather than keep them around for 90 days, you want to keep them around for, 90 months, or many years. Helping them get, become different versus being better is a better roadmap. I got a buddy, Stuart Crawford, who's a pretty impressive operator in his own right. And he almost like, if you go to my Facebook page and you scroll down a decent link, you're going to see where Stuart Crawford has gone to my Facebook page. And he's put on there something, something to the effect of, I'll never forget these words from my bud, Karl Bryan. And this was back, I think would have said it like 2005, 2006. And again, he's written this multiple times and sent this to me in, say, a messenger, a text, or whatever it is. But he just says, I'll never forget that advice about being different versus being better. And I think what he's effectively saying is, it took a little bit of time to it really, really sink in. And now that he's worked with so many companies, had a ridiculous amount of success in his own world, I think that's why he's saying it. So anyways, and that's not in any way to say that you don't have to have an awesome product or service, right? That's not what I'm saying. That goes without saying in this day and age, right? Social media and everything else. You got to have something that crushes it. But being different is fact. Like said differently, if you've got competition, if your coaching clients have got competition, they're pretty much dead in the water before they get going. And again, understanding what I'm talking about here is a business with a B versus an M, right? And remember an M, like if you go 1 million seconds, what is that, 11 days? And then you go 1 billion seconds, and that's 32 years. So I want you to understand 1 million and 1 billion. I know the government kind of throw these numbers around, and then they throw trillion in there. And by the way, 1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years, to put it in perspective. Whereas people nowadays, we throw around million and billion, and people think that they have some correlation to one another. very far from. So when I'm describing all of this, you're talking about a company that really wants to crush it. Look, is your coaching client going to go to $1 billion? I'd be bloody amazed. And if you do, you make sure you send me an email, and I want to hear the story, and I'll interview you in 2 seconds, right? But that being said, let's just assume you want to build a monster. You want to have a roadmap, right? So that's what we're talking about here. And let's say that you have a client and they are a plumber in Lake Tahoe. Okay. And as an example, they are looking, you go to Google AdWords and they're running some advertising and they rank number 7. Well, trying to get them to number 1 is like a mugs game. That's not the roadmap you want to be following. You want to be able to create a completely different offer, a completely different product, a completely different service that they deliver, right? So again, and I'm not talking about differentiating with your marketing. Again, that's a huge mistake. And quite frankly, it's a lightweight approach that the quote unquote influencers teach. I'm talking about differentiate with the fulfillment, right? Like I created business coaching software, profit acceleration software. No one on the planet has it. No one's ever, we created the thing. We had a bunch of spreadsheets, spent a whole lot of dough over, it's 5 years. See, people think about profit acceleration software. I know like a lot of our clients, and they think that it's an 18-month-old project. This has been around we've had it for, I don't know how long, but I'm going to guess 5 years. Multiple iterations. If you saw its original and then you saw it today, like to say you wouldn't recognize it would be like an understatement on steroids, right? And by the way, when you see it 12 months from today, you're pretty much not going to recognize it either, right? Because again, we're constantly updating, constantly upgrading. I mean, we're currently studying artificial intelligence and applications of artificial intelligence, like how they will apply to it, which quite frankly, if you ask me right here in the moment, we don't know. Right? We're exploring it. Like we don't know what that's going to look like. I just know that it's going to have artificial intelligence built into it because it's just too powerful not to. Probably pretty obvious, right? Look, the bottom line is that your clients. We talked about this last time. I did explain it, but implicitly, once again, you've got to be creating niches or creating categories, not trying to become your number 7 or your client's number 7, getting them to number 1, right? Like Cirque du Soleil totally recreated the circus experience. I don't even, to this day, I mean, do they really have competition? Like, no doubt there's some little lightweight operations out there, but nobody that's competing with Cirque du Soleil in a Vegas type environment, right? Jobs totally recreated the smartphone. What I said last week, like when he launched it, he didn't even mention BlackBerry. Like he just ignored the fact that they existed, right? Uber created the taxi industry. And you really also, if you want to go to a B versus an M, or more to the point, you want to be a crushing business coach, your client wants to be a crushing business, I really want you to think about, like, they need to become what I'll call an all-rounder, right? You live in Australia. An all-rounder is a cricket player who hits and bowls, right? So just Babe Ruth was an all-rounder of baseball where he pitched and he could hit the ball over the fence, right? Like that's like an all-rounder, a guy that does it all. Probably pretty self-explanatory. But how many of your clients go, yeah, I'm not a numbers guy, or I'm not a sales and marketing guy. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not a sales gal. I'm not comfortable with marketing. I'm not comfortable. And, I'm not comfortable with systems. I'm more of a, sales and marketing type individual. You can't take that approach, right? What they've got to do is enter the world that you guys hear me talk about all the time, which is mastery. And that means that you don't compete with the competition. You compete with yourself, and your goal is to become better every single day. You're competing with yourself yesterday, every single day. Again, that is the genesis of my my daily email called One Coaching Thing, because I used to do this in my own world. And I was like, well, if I provided this for the coaching community, imagine how, for those that actually follow, and many don't, right? And many do. Many love my emails, and others just, either they press delete or unsubscribe or whatever they do. Hey, each to their own. But the bottom line is, I'm like, if I could provide one cool coaching thing, quote unquote, per day, imagine how far all the coaches around the world would get. That way I'm making the pie bigger. My slice automatically becomes bigger. I'm not worried about my slice. I'm worried about the industry as a whole, right? Just give you a little bit. And again, so your client that's sitting there saying, I'm not a numbers guy, I'm not a numbers gal, you just can't accept that, right? And by the way, if you want, Road Dogg, if the guys want an example of this, you want to read the book Made in America, which is a Sam Walton story, which basically it's Sam Walton writing the book. But it's really the genesis of Walmart and how it came to be. the guy was just categorically obsessed with retail sales, and you have to read it to see the level. But then when he started, so the inspiration for you when you're sitting here going, look, I'm not a numbers guy, I'm not a numbers gal, or for your coaching client that says the same, when he got started, he says this, all but says this right in the book, that he was really a bull in a china shop. You know, he knew how to sell and work hard. That's all he had, right? But over time, he achieved mastery where he became like an all-rounder on steroids, right? He measured everything, learned everything. I mean, the guy bought a plane and flew over the competition and potential markets that he was thinking about entering to understand traffic patterns, right? Like that's the level that he took it to. He had daily numbers. And then what he did is again, and you understand it, he'd build what I'll call scorecards. And then he basically took like he would look at one spreadsheet or one scorecard, and he could almost tell exactly what happened on that specific day on that specific location, right? And again, it was a progression. It wasn't like he magically woke up one day and he was unbelievable, right? This is something he progressed at over time. Again, mastery, each day. Remember, you get a compounding effect when you take that. When you take a penny and you double it every day for 30 days, you have $5 million on day 30. The problem is on about day 24, 25, it's not very exciting, but it's in those last few days that it's unbelievable how quickly it grows, right? So it's like, I love it. Back in the pre-show, Road Dog, we were talking about Grant Cardone on Undercover Billionaire, right? I wrote about it. He's on the front cover of this, the most recent edition, depending upon when you're listening to this, but the most recent edition of the magazine, Grant Cardone's on the front, and I wrote about it. You want to go to a new city and start getting clients, like basically he's going to show you the roadmap. I think they all are. There's 3 of them that are kind of, out there doing this Undercover Billionaire, whatever it is. They got 90 days to build a 7-figure company. They all take slightly different approaches, but they're ridiculously similar. But if you want a roadmap, you just watch Grant Cardone and the way he does that. You will be impressed. But again, he didn't wake up one day and magically know exactly how to network and exactly how to sell, exactly how to influence, exactly how to positively and ethically manipulate, people in his favor to basically get, like the solution to what he's, his current problem, which is what he's a master at. But the bottom line is, if you just watch that, the roadmap is an impressive one. But so Road Dog, I just wanted to, so you're thinking about building a company with a B versus an M, and you got a coaching client that's, again, realistically, are they going to get to $1 billion? Probably not, but they really want to crush it. Make sure that on the last episode, I outlined some of my thoughts. I just further wanted to go into that. Differentiation is absolutely mission critical. So there you go, Road Dog.
Just real quick on that, because you mentioned Grant Cardone a couple times already. Like, what's, I guess, the number one thing that you've learned from Grant Cardone?
At first, again, like Grant Cardone, it's not that I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm just not. I respect his work ethic madly, but he's a little too money for me personally, and that's not a shot. Again, it's so easy to, whatever, like go after somebody who's willing to basically implicitly and just straight out say that. But that's just not my approach, right? So I'm not the biggest Grant Cardone guy, but I'll tell you, I love him. I love him in that show, and just hats off. And look, the guy, he doesn't give a crap about me, right? The guy's a billionaire, right? Look, you need to build a team. It's all about people, right? To succeed, you really need resources, right? And the people around you have those resources. It's just a matter of you having the guts, maybe the process, maybe a little bit of mojo, and asking in an intelligent way, right? Just asking. There's one of the gals, I think her name's Elaine, the blonde-haired gal in the show, and she is not scared to just say, so do you want to be my partner, and do you want to give me $250,000, right? Which the gal, by the way, didn't end up, whatever. So it's a bit of a funny one. But you got to be able to just, other people have got what you need, which are, I want you to think of them as resources, and you need to go get them, right? And look, Grant Cardone, the one thing, passion goes a long way. Like there's a scene, actually, no, there's multiple scenes where the guy that he is, working to become partners with, The level of energy is just like incredible, right? And the guy says, I just like your energy. I like being around you, right? You're what this town needs. Like he basically just says that straight out. And I'm like, damn, man, and a guy, he's Lewis Curtis, an absolute nobody, totally upfront about the fact that, look, I got no dough, but I got a lot of mojo. Do you want to take a bet on me? And that's what the guy says, just straight up. And the question for you listening, you're a business coach and trying to get clients. What's the level of energy that you bring to your conversations? What's the level of energy that you bring, into the room when you enter, right? And then I can hear somebody, like more, analytical type going, yeah, but like if you bring that much energy into a room, you can really throw some people off. Okay, you'd be right there. But do me a favor, if you don't know, I want you to really amp up that energy, because believe me, it'll work in your favor significantly more than it will work against you, right? So again, if that's your attitude that, I don't want to have too much energy because I'll freak people out, you're the guy or gal that I'm, definitely speaking directly to here. You've got to bring some energy, to your call, to the room, to the, whatever the threesome or the foursome or whatever it is that you're sitting around the table with. To the dinner table, to the lunch, whatever, without being over the top. Because and by the way, make sure you're true to yourself, which is important. But a lack of energy is not going to work very well. High level of energy, and just watch Grant Cardone in the show, the enthusiasm he brings to the conversations. I like it. That's all I'm going to say. I used to say when I was building my original team of business coaches, and I'm talking like back in 2005. I had a saying that I used all the time. I should probably start saying it a little more nowadays, but double the energy and you'll triple the sales. And that I think remains true. But look, what are you asking me here? The biggest thing, I think the biggest thing that I've learned from Grant Cardone, so if you don't know his story, he was a drug addict, right? He turned things around at a pretty early age, right? But he knows the power of a story and a power of conflict, right? So, he was a drug addict, and instead of stopping, quote unquote, his addictive qualities, which is what everybody recommended, including his therapist and his counselor and his parents and his twin brother and everybody, right? Instead of stopping his addictive qualities, he channeled them. And I think that the power in that, like, you got to be careful. Those people around you, what do they say? Oh, you work too much. Oh, you need balance in your life. Oh, you're working too hard. It's not good for your health, or working that hard comes at a cost, that kind of stuff. And they have the best of intentions. And the people who will say that, yes, they will be the people who love you the most, want the best for you, but they're just that advice is misguided. I'm saying that as a black and white statement. Clearly, in different circumstances, maybe that's not. Like somebody has a real health issue and they need to settle down and just chill out a little bit, maybe in that instance. But I would say that I get juice out of, doing the podcast, out of speaking to my clients, out of, creating, the software we get together, our executive team, Pat, Adrian, and I, and what we put together. And it's amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't take energy away. It gives me energy, right? Like if I come into the office and I'm tired and I start speaking to somebody about what we do and business coaching and everything else, I don't get more tired. I end up with significantly more energy. So I want you to think about that. Balance does not exist. Do not try to think about balancing work and life. Don't try to do that with your clients. The better word, I think this is again straight from Tony Robbins, but try to integrate it. Work, what I mean? Take work and life and integrate them versus remove them. Like Road Dogg, again, you and I sit down, we have a beer. What do? We sit down and we talk about business and cool things that you're doing with clients and I'm doing with clients, and that, you know what I mean? Like what we're doing, like that, it's cool. It's fun. It's integrated. So like we sit down and say, hey, I don't want to, like you and I, Road Dogg, have never sat down in our lives, and we will never sit down and say, I don't want to talk about business. You know what I mean? Like it's not happening with Road Dogg and I, right? We're business guys. So anyways, just, people, like, again, if you want to be uber successful, you want to really make a difference, you want to be a needle mover within your city, within your state, within an industry, looking for balance is going to be a mistake. Like you've got to give something up to get something. Don't kid yourself. Don't pretend like that's not reality. The only question is, what are you going to give up? And are you willing to give it up in order to get something else? And I'm sitting here like, maybe you don't want to be a needle mover. Really, when you break it down, look, you just want to make $100,000 a year as a business coach, have a great life, watch your kids grow up, and just be able to call your own shots, right? Like I was with a good buddy, Craig Vetter on the weekend skiing, by the way, road dog, mutual bud, right? And look, he's successful business coach, does some cool stuff. He works 3 weeks of the month and takes a week off. And he's got a place up at the mountain, and they go up, and he takes his kids out of school, and they go up there for a week of the month. And that's his lifestyle. That's what he likes. He's got 3 kids. One's 2 years old, right? So he really understands what he wants. And then he's basically created a roadmap that serves it. End of story. So it's pretty cool for anybody listening. Again, and better, he'll tell you this. We sit down and have a beer to do. He's not trying to create software, right? Like he says, he loves what we're doing. He respects what we're doing. But he's got a 2-year-old. He's not going to go and create software, right? It's just not where he's at. He may in the future, and I don't want to talk on his behalf by any stretch, but that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And that he understands exactly what it is that he wants. But I also don't want anybody to think that in order to be a needle mover, you don't have to work 80 hours a week. Like you just don't, right? What you need to be insanely focused, learn this very magical word called no. And you're going to need to be driven, and you're going to want to be great. Like you really, and I think but nobody's going to listen and go, no, I don't want to be great. Right. Like that doesn't happen, but I don't want to hear what you say. I want to look at your actions. Right. It's like, you can imagine you guys say this to your kids. I say this to my daughter all the time. Like the words don't matter. The actions do. Right. So if I watch you and I observe you and I look at the last 7 days prior to this, like how much have you worked? How focused were you? How much time did you spend farting around on Facebook, consuming? And by the way, I personally spend time on Facebook, and because if I'm following somebody and they're like, a friend from whenever, and they're like fighting with their wife and having a spat and whining about whatever, it's like goodbye. Like done. Like that's just not what's going to happen. It's not going to be my Facebook experience, quote unquote. Right. And it's not like I'm sitting on Facebook all day. I'll give you the red hot tip on that one. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Snapchat. I don't have, WhatsApp is horrifically on my phone, but I get about 7 million messages and I'm not looking at them, never looking at them. I just got to work out how to delete the bloody thing. But I do Facebook, and that's it. But what's important here is I don't consume it, and I'm not sitting here looking at, ridiculous stuff. I follow people who are doing cool things and quite frankly doing great things. And when I flow through my Facebook feed, I hear a lot of people whining and crying, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's negative and it's this. I'm like, my Facebook experience is great because I'm following people that are really doing cool stuff, and people that are entertaining, and people that are intelligent, and people that are inspiring. That's what I'm doing. And by the way, I'm obsessed with what I do. I'm not reading about fixing cars. I'm not reading about, buying cars. I'm not reading about stuff. What I'm reading about is business. Look, for me, every one of my emails that you guys read, or I think maybe even this podcast, when I go on my little rabbit holes and my little runs, it's about 3 things: business, marketing, wealth. I am obsessed with those 3 topics. When I read a book, right, I love John Grisham, and there was a time in my life where I'd read every John Grisham book ever put out, and I think he's great. He's an author about lawyers and kind of, just crazy type situations. I really love his stuff, but I'm not reading John Grisham. If I'm reading a book, it is about one of those topics: business, marketing, wealth. The end. And that's what I'm obsessed with. That's what I'm doing. I don't want anybody to think that what I'm saying is, hey, you should be more like me, or anything, even the exact opposite of that. What you should do is work out exactly what you want. The more clear you can get with that, everything becomes so simple. So Road Dog, there you go, bud. That would be my answer. But I do Grant Cardone, man. I'm not Grant Cardone, and he's not the number one guy for me, but I respect his work ethic at a ridiculous level, and watching him on Undercover Billionaire has been Cool. Very cool. So there you go, Shoots.
So I got a question for you. If you're co-hosting a podcast and you're 36 minutes into it and you haven't gotten to the first question yet, how do you handle that?
I don't. That's a good question, Chief.
Right?
That's one for you. Let's go.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna lob just a little softball just to maybe get the show started. I don't know, just an idea. Can we start with something as simple, because you talked about messaging to your team, right? With the energy and all that stuff. But like, what does your phone screensaver say now today? Like, if I opened your phone, what does it say? By the way,
what does my
phone screensaver say? And by the way, I know it's going to be in a massive font, so you can actually.
It is so right. Well, I can tell you what it says, because I can tell you it's been the same for a while, which I might have to update it actually, because I might be moving into a different phase. Who knows? But work until you no longer need to introduce yourself. I can tell you, and it is in massive font. I can absolutely, but I don't know how that's real. Maybe that's going to help somebody in some way. I doubt it, but that's what it says. I will tell you this: that my password. We've talked about that at different times, and you probably have a password on your phone. What I do is I encourage you to create your password to be your monthly income goal, recurring, by the way, not just here's how much money I want to make. Well, you know what? You do whatever you want, but your monthly income goal would be an excellent password for you. And then once you get to it, you clearly, presuming you're going to get to it, then you're going to want to move the needle a little bit further. Then you just change your password to whatever that number is. So anyways, and I've had that trick for, I don't know if it's a trick, but something that I do and you guys might want to do. And again, yeah, that's it, man. That's what it says. Work until you no longer need to introduce yourself. So there you go. Maybe that's a little too Grant Cardone for a guy who,
right.
Whatever.
There you go. Maybe mirror exercise for you. Hey, by the way, that password for your monthly income goal, is that gross or net? I just need to know so I can.
Gross, Shoots. Big number, big. It needs to be inspiring. There you go.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's a net number, I will hack your phone. So if anybody needs anything from Karl's phone or needs a contact or an intro, just go ahead and email me. That'd be fantastic. Hey, listen, you were talking about Bitcoin blockchain, and we actually had a question in regards to that. They said, I read where you said the needle mover for Bitcoin is really blockchain. Can you explain what blockchain means to you? So it's sort of an interesting phrasing of the question, but can you explain what blockchain means to you?
Yes. I don't know. Means. I'm not going to explain what it means to me. I could explain what it means. And by the way, great question. As a business coach, you're going to want, I don't know if some of you could understand blockchain better than I. This is not my area of expertise. I can tell you though that I'm spending some time in my own little world, understanding it at a higher level and what that means. The answer is I got no idea, but I guarantee in a few years' time that I will have worked blockchain in somehow, some way. Because that's not because I'm so smart or anything like that. That's because that is where the needle is going. That is where the market is going. That is, if we're in the ocean, we want to surf towards the shore. The wave is well and truly, it's a decent one. You'd get a hell of a wave, and you'd get to, if you're a good surfer, this would be your dream. So understand blockchain at a high level is my recommendation for business coaches, and do it now, because it's kind of the unknown right now. But in a few years, 5 years, guarantee it. But I would, if you were to put me on the spot and guess, I'd say like in 3 years, blockchain's really got some momentum. The way that like Bitcoin's been around for a decade, right? Or whatever. I know this number. Anyways, let's just say a decade, a little bit longer than that. But now it's become super popular. Well, what do you say to yourself? Gosh, if I got on the Bitcoin train back in the day, imagine how I'd look, right? Well, that's blockchain. Okay. So, and again, I think a lot of folks, like, you've heard of it, but you don't really understand it. Before I get into this, I really want to give you don't listen. The mistake that coaches make or people make, or that, and I've made, Road Dogg, no doubt you have, listening to influencers on this, you want to follow the practitioners, right? The ones that, you're going to have to find them to observe them, right? Because I guarantee this, you're not going to scroll through Facebook or Instagram or wherever the heck you're spending your time. And the practitioner is not going to be doing a Facebook Live on Bitcoin. It's not happening, right? So I dare say the people that know the least about Bitcoin are the ones that are out there talking about it and, it's so amazing and whatever. Like, don't the talking heads stop it. You guys have heard me rail against influencers many, many a times. You want to go to the practitioners. Hopefully that's incredibly clear. And look, okay, so like a Bitcoin, like as an example, right? Like Bitcoin, it might go to 100 grand, right? And it might not. But let me tell you this, no one knows the end. Warren Buffett doesn't know. Ray Dalio doesn't know. I most definitely have no bloody clue, and I'm not worried about it either. And if somebody is saying that, they're talking in a manner like that, this is a sign that they're trying to sell you something, right? The course is coming, the book is coming, the Bitcoin is coming. I don't know, whatever's coming. So, and then ask them, but just instead of going, oh, okay, so, this guy's super smart and I followed him for a long time and he says it's going to go to 100 grand. So it's not. Ask him a question, right? Like, what kind of data do you have to support your video? Or like, how did you come to that conclusion? You know what I mean? And then see their answers. And then this is where you're going to get, some good. And then don't believe them just because they answer it. And you're like, oh my gosh, that sounded like it was written by a Harvard grad. Again, just chalk it up. Okay. Yeah, I agree with this. I don't agree with that. I want to research this further. Just be patient. Be patient. Patiently impatient. I talk about that a bit. But anywho, so look, let's start with what it's not. Okay, let's get back to blockchain. Blockchain is not Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form. Blockchain is not a cryptocurrency. It's not artificial intelligence. It's not machine learning. It's not some coding language. I've heard that and seen that. It's like, okay, think of it as a unique database or a series. So if you've ever seen a spreadsheet, okay, just think about each little block, like A2 as a block. And then each of them are chained together. Okay. So you got blocks and then they're chained. So what's the name of the thing? Blockchain. That's where the name comes from, right? Or a metaphor. I want you to think of a spreadsheet versus a Google Doc. Okay. So a spreadsheet is designed, like if I send one to Road Dog, it's on his computer. He makes changes. Road Dog makes changes to his spreadsheet and he'd have to send it back to me and then I'd have to resave it, etc., in order for those changes to be working for both of us, versus he could do a Google Doc, he sends it over to me, and then I make changes, he makes changes, and we're making changes to the same Google Doc. And then if we gave somebody else access to the Google Doc, they would be able to do the same. And if we gave everybody on the planet that had an internet connection access to the Google Doc, well, guess what? Everybody can adjust it, manipulate it, etc., right? So that would be a metaphor. That is not explaining it exactly, but I think it's a nice little metaphor for you to understand, basically what it is. So think spreadsheets, think spreadsheet versus Google Doc, right? Or maybe here's another example, like kind of like a metaphor. If you've ever bought a house, right, you will be able to go in and easily view, your realtor will, or someone with access, right? But you will be able to view exactly who bought the house for exactly how much, and the exact date, right? Like that is, again, not blockchain, but it's a damn good example of the power and precision of being able to log into information like that. Imagine how much integrity gets built into the world when everything becomes as transparent as what I just described with real estate, right? And then think of how many industries operate with a level of integrity or a level of transparency like that. And the answer is none. Okay, in 3 to 5 years, that will not be the case. The end, right? So think of it as like a monster spreadsheet, but the X factor is once the data is entered, it can't be deleted, right? So it's a mutable ledger, immutable, as in can't be muted, can't be changed. It's an immutable ledger. And it doesn't necessarily, like it doesn't need to be numbers entered. It could be anything, right? You put cat pictures, I suppose. I don't know if you'd want to, but whatever. But you could put whatever, but logically its primary use is going to be for transactions, right? So we fast forward 3 to 5 years, it becomes more commonplace. You're going to see it used successfully in things like real estate with transactions like I just described, right? And there's no, like imagine this, right? There's no governing body or anybody to oversee it. The people, you, me, Road Dog, the users of the Google Doc, become the moderators. So now, look, accounting and small business finance is something I've studied at a high level for, a number of years now. Just like, my goodness, right? Like if the government and, taxation and that sort of stuff became in any way transparent, if we could take the governing body away, there'd be some very positive improvements for us, the general public, big time. But so really it's the transparency and look, that's blockchain, man. It's not overly complicated. Think of it as an impressive Google Doc again. And I know somebody's listening going, oh my God, he's comparing blockchain to Google Doc. It's a metaphor. Okay. Like it's an example of, for those that don't understand. And the question is, what the hell is blockchain? For somebody that doesn't understand it, I want you to think of it as that. But a Google Doc, I could go and delete things and adjust things, etc. Once, the ledger is updated, you can't, adjust it. So there you go, Road Dog. That's it, man. That's blockchain. But cool. That's some powerful topic.
Cool, man. I appreciate. I knew nothing about blockchain, but Google Docs. Okay, that's what it is. It's a Google Doc. That's amazing. Appreciate that.
That's it.
This is it, right? Just can you give us a couple of examples of it being used, or the application, if you will, of blockchain?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Yes, that's a good point. Okay, well, look, imagine this. Imagine you had a vote, right? Imagine you had an election and you were concerned that there might be voter fraud. I don't know where that could possibly be relevant at this time. But just imagine that. So what happened? Imagine if we were doing that on the blockchain, and this will be done if the government is interested in not having fraud in elections, and that may or may not be debatable. I don't know, but I'll tell you that with a zillion% certainty, the government will go to this, right? So it would just look like what? Like each citizen would get like a token, and then each candidate would be given what's called a wallet address, and you just simply take your token and you'd put it in the wallet address, and voila. And it's 100% traceable and almost impossible to tamper over the long haul. I'm sure somebody would work out how to tamper it in the short term, but because it's 100% traceable and everything's so transparent, be able to go back through, right? And be able to look yes or no. And again, it wouldn't be like one specific governing body. You'd be able to go in there and, I guess, make a case for yourself, right? And the results would be almost instantaneous, right? So that would be like, that's an example of blockchain, and it is not here, but when 3 to 5 years, that will be the case. I guarantee it, right? And by this is going to be time stamped. You'll be able to listen to this in 5 years. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm out to lunch. So maybe something's going to overtake it, but that transparency is coming without doubt. Like there's what's it called? Food trust blockchain, I think it's called. It traces the movement of food products on their way to their final destination, right? And why? Like, how's that going to help? Think of the outbreaks of like coli, salmonella, dangerous exposures, for food. And they normally take weeks for them to be able to find like the cause of the outbreak. And imagine how much that costs for the food company. And then not to mention, they need to clear all the food from the shelves and take all that inventory and do what? Throw it in the garbage, right? With guys wearing, these crazy psycho looking, coronavirus type outfits, right? So, it happens more than you realize, by the way, right? You sometimes hear about it, but you seldom do, right? So imagine, using blockchain will give brands the ability to be able to track the specific route from literally farm to grocery store and every stop in between. So if something happens, they'll be able to retrace the steps, find the origin of the issue, and correct it, or take the needed course of action, I guess, right? So uses like banking industry, again, it's something for transactions. I don't know if you understand how archaic the banking industry is, but I tell you this, it's going to, in a few years' time, when we think back to the days when we had to deposit a check on Friday and we had to wait until Monday for the funds to clear, the ones that we'd already earned, by the way, that's going to seem like, holy cow, like that's kind of wild, right? Even like in real estate, like think of again, depending upon how much real estate you guys have bought, but like the costly and time consuming process of recording property rights is like, I don't know, inefficient and cumbersome would be like understatements on steroids. You're talking about physical deeds being delivered to government employees. And is the guy half asleep? Is she hungover? I don't know, right? But Could you imagine the number of errors that leads to, right? And it's just going to be a thing of the past. And again, blockchains, like creating a blockchain is all going to eliminate those mistakes, right? If you ever use Spotify, they are successfully using, if you have Spotify, they are using blockchain, or like a decentralized database, again, is what it is. What are they doing? Like they're correlating artists with licensing agreements for like individual songs, right? So blockchain in music, and if you understand it, a very dodgy industry where folks get held hostage by, very average operators. And just go watch. I love the movie Straight Outta Compton, I think it's called, right? The movie about NWA, which is a beauty. So they, you'll just see it right there, right? So it's going to create a more transparent record of rights for ownership. That's going to solve like some long-standing issues in the industry, where artists and labels have been taken advantage of for many, many years. Like if you follow Taylor Swift, and my daughter's 7 years old and loves Taylor Swift, and sadly, I think I've admitted it previously anyways, but I love Taylor Swift. I think she's pretty cool. She is singer / businesswoman. She's like Madonna back in the day. She's taken control of her own career, which has a huge part of why she's managed to stand the test of time. And I have no doubt will continue to. She's she was kind of in a public dispute. I think it's all been sorted out now, but with Scooter Braun. And again, it's all about rights to her music and who does and who doesn't and who sold what. And it's all a little bit wild. But some companies that use blockchain like Bitcoin, obviously, Spotify, Pfizer, you'd know that company, right? Because they're pumping out the vaccine, Simmons, De Beers. Like if you understand the industry of like diamonds and getting diamonds into rings, there is some conjecture there big time. So the same way that the food is going to be able to go from farm to grocery store, the diamonds are going to be able to go from, A to Z straight into the jewelry store. And imagine the transparency that's going to provide, right? So that's, there's going to be so many more, right? That's just a few of them. And there's many that I don't know about. And again, I'm not an expert on this topic and not pretending to be, but I can tell you it's one where I'm educating myself, mastery. I don't pretend to be an expert in a day. I'm an every day. If I learn a little bit, I will absolutely get there, and I will understand how to take it and create application around it. And you'll be able to do that for yourself and for your clients, right? So, and it's not like you really need to dig deep. I think you're going to need to be able to speak intelligently on the subject. But I think you're also going to find that when you start speaking on the subject, that you're really going to learn. Like sit down with somebody and have a conversation about blockchain and just watch what you learn, right? Don't pretend to be the expert, right? One of the things I loved on an episode on Undercover Billionaire, the gal, the record, record label, but her and her husband grew a really big business. I think they work with some pretty impressive operators, but she said she sat down and then she's trying to convince a group of investors to buy into her little, it's called Rooted, but it's like her little health brand. And she opens up with, and again, I'm going to make a meal out of it, but something to the effect of, look, I don't pretend to have all the answers. I'm working this out, but I promise you this, I'm committed. Right? Again, she would have said it differently than that, but that's the message that she brought across. So imagine you're an investor. She's not looking for millions, right? She's looking for 10 grand, right? Chump change. So that's all she's looking for. But 10 grand when you don't have it is a lot of money, by the way, just important. But she basically just said that. She just goes, look, I don't pretend to have all the answers. The vulnerability of that. If you were looking to invest in her, I'd be amazed if that doesn't make you feel comfortable, right? So anyway, you sit down with somebody and have a conversation about it and just watch what you learn. Again, mastery. Remember, you don't need to just one step, just a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And importantly, private blockchains do exist and will exist, right? Where, one person, one group, or an association will be able to make changes, but nobody else, right? It'll be less common in its application because a big part of the magic is the open source nature of it. But again, there will be private blockchains. Like you'll be able to create a blockchain within your own company or association. So So just, in other words, just because it says blockchain doesn't mean the entire world is going to be able to get access to it. And you know what I mean? Like Bitcoin, just to be clear, you could do it in a private way. I can tell you, I'm going to write up an email about this because I think this is a really good topic. And this is one that I want to get people, again, or business coaches thinking about one foot in front of the other. Cause I think it's a powerful topic. So there you go. Choops. That's my answer on blockchain. What do you think?
Well, I'm thinking that send all your hate mail regarding election fraud to Karl at no results. So
oh my God.
That piece. But and by the way, folks, stay tuned to see if Karl can answer more than 2 questions next week. Can you? We're up against it here, man. Can you close us out without a 10-minute rabbit hole? With the one thing that they can take from today's podcast and put into their business.
The one thing that they can take out, I think, watch I think actually we said this last week, but apologies, but I do think it's that good. Like, watch Undercover Billionaire and just look at what they're doing, and then just don't watch it for entertainment. I want you to watch it. You should have a pad of paper and a pen, just writing things down. And look for little intricacies and little, finite, like as an example, when I saw her pitching to the computer and there's, 10 people there, she's pitching and she starts with, I don't have all the answers, right? Like, I think somebody else could, very likely watch the show and then not even see that moment, and most definitely not capture that moment. But I went, ooh. And this is a billionaire that you're listening to. You don't become a billionaire by accident. Remember, 1 million seconds is 11 days, and 1 billion seconds is 32 years, right? So to be able to call yourself a billionaire, this is next level on steroids, right? So and you don't get there by accident. You don't get there because your daddy gave you some dough. You don't get there because mommy and daddy gave you a gold card at 16, right? Like you work on presuming that, you don't get the whole, like what I'd call the lucky sperm club, right? Where you just walk into it, right? Assuming that you're not that. You don't get there by accident. All of these guys are all, and guys and gals are all self-made. So I think watching that and just the power of it. But the bottom line is each of them. If you want to know my takeaway, I just gave you a big one. But it's that everybody's got like resource team, right? Like being the lone wolf, right? Like if look, here's a question. You're a business coach. My question is, who are you building your company with? And answer honestly. There's a really good chance that you're like, well, I'm doing it on my own. Okay, well, guess what? You're not having any measurable success. The end. So then the question is, okay, well, I want to have measurable success. Meet me back here in 14 days. Remember, these guys are building 7-figure companies in 90 days. Meet me back here in 14 days and tell me your partnerships. Go to the incubator. Go to the chamber. Go to the accountant. And then, by the way, don't call the accountant, have him hang up on you or have him not take your phone call and cry in your Cheerios and tell me that nobody wants to partner with you. Nobody wants to, just get over it, right? Like, oh gosh, there's a quote by Elon Musk running around. And again, I'm going to make a meal of it. Road Dog, you might know what I'm talking about, but it's like, the quote is, again, I'm making a meal of it, but if you need a pat on the back, entrepreneurship is not for you, right? Or you need somebody to hold your hand and make you feel good about your progress and where you're at, entrepreneurship is not for you, right? So again, just taking that attitude, and I think Elon Musk is a stud, by the way. I think he's also batshit crazy, just quietly, wants to colonize Mars and everything else, which, by the way, in a good way, you've heard my saying, crazy ones make all the money, right? So guess what? Elon Musk got a lot of it. He's bananas. But Steve Jobs was bananas. Jeff Bezos is bananas. I think he's a little less bananas than the others, but whatever, who cares? That's my opinion, by the way. You might disagree, and I'm totally cool with that. But I think that the power of that is immense, guys. Like, with your coaching company right now, show me your partnerships. It doesn't have to be staff. I hope that you'll move towards that. We've got a program where our coaches, once they have measurable success, they end up building a team of 10 coaches. It's like kind of an organic program that our high-end guys go into. I think that's a real winner. Like, those are our, again, needle moving type coaches, right? To really start crushing it. But the bottom line is that's, again, show me your team, show me your partnerships, right? Like when you take on a coaching client, like let's say that it's a hair salon. Okay, well, my question is, who supplies the shampoo, the conditioner, the combs, the brushes, etc., to the salon? Well, the more successful the salon is, the more successful they're going to be. So why not ask them for a referral to that client so you can start working with them also, right? And then take them both out to lunch, by the way, spoil them rotten, and say, how are we going to get you guys working at a higher level? You're both my clients. So anyway, so just partnerships. It's intestinal fortitude. I really think that Undercover Billionaire, I hope I'm not overdoing it in terms of, I love that show, and I think all business coaches should watch it. But I want you to watch it to learn. Don't watch it for entertainment. If you're not watching with a pad of paper, if you read a book and you don't have a pad of paper, if you watch a YouTube video on business and you don't have a pad of paper, if you don't listen to hopefully this podcast, or maybe it's somebody smarter than me's podcast, without a pen and paper, you're crazy, right? Like you're not obsessed. You're not buying in, right? So anyway, Road Dog, that was a bit of a rabbit hole, bud, but that's my takeaway right there. I can't remember what it was, but that's what I got to say.
It was Undercover Billionaire. That's what it was.
Yeah, I should be getting some sponsorship money, man. I'm plugging that show like a madman. I think I got to send in a couple of these podcasts.
He's listening, and I'm sure that he is very proud. So there's that. I think the Elon Musk quote was, if you need motivation, I think it was motivation, or something like that, right? But anyways, he is just an alien trying to get home. Zuckerberg, you've heard that Zuckerberg's been called a lizard. Like, it's just, maybe they're not crazy. They're just different. So anyways, on that note, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the King Lizard himself, my boy King Karl. And if you're not on the inside and not getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or just want information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach, someone that's a great salesperson, or just watches Undercover Billionaire, apparently. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes and Spotify give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week. And I promise I will try and keep Karl's feet to the fire to actually answer more than 2 questions next time. But that's it, folks. Remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra $1 on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.